Okay, guys, I'm going to have to state that this film failed its primary mission. It is Cold Pursuit from 2019. It is actually a remake. It has 70% on the tomato meter and 50% on that audience score. And wow, it has a very low number of audience reviews, 2,447 as of the first week of February 2020, meaning that most people probably just don't know that this film exists. I certainly didn't know it existed until I saw it run on HBO recently. I saw Liam Neeson's name attached to it, and I said, "Wow, okay, it must be like an action movie of some time that some type that I missed of his." Well, I turned out to be wrong, and when I fired up Rotten Tomatoes, I saw that it was rotten, so it did qualify for one of my episodes of Rotten Reviews. However, on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie is listed as an action adventure, and so I thought, well, okay, that makes sense. It's a Liam Neeson film. Well, to tell you how badly this film failed, I knew nothing about it, and yet it took about half of the movie's running time before I realized something wasn't right. That something being that this is not actually supposed to be an action adventure. It is supposed to be like a black or dark comedy, and it is supposed to be funny and gory and brutal all at the same time. Something along the lines of maybe Fargo or something weird like that. Well, actually, it's a remake of a straight up successful black comedy, and let's take a look at that. The original film is called In Order of Disappearance. Obviously, it's straight up certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score of 73%, but also a very small number of audience reviews because this is a Skarsgård film. It's a Norwegian film. It's a Norwegian production, and it makes sense. In fact, it makes a lot more logical sense than it does to set this same movie in Colorado. And a word on that. This is a small town outside of Colorado, outside of Denver by about 2 hours. The film says it's the town of, I believe it's called, well, you know what? I just can't remember what the town's name is. It doesn't matter. In any case, it's supposed to be about 2 hours from Denver, driving-wise. Yet the movie kind of shows you that it's just right up in the mountains outside of Denver. And in this world, in this film, the city of Denver is basically just downtown Denver with nothing around it. And there's like a single snowy frozen highway leading out of downtown Denver up into the mountains where this film takes place, and that's completely ridiculous, but the movie shows you this on many occasions, and it just makes me think I'm in a fantasy world. Um, in any case, let's get to the audience reviews and find out just how this film failed, and oh, it failed in a lot of different ways, and we're going to get to that. First audience review from 5 days ago. 1.5 stars. Another January revenge action flick from Mr. Liam Neeson. At this point, it's just the same old routine. Throw in some dark comedic elements on top of that, which in my opinion felt a bit odd, along with a stupid throwaway villain, and you got yourself a pretty crappy movie. Winter scenery in the Rockies was cool, at least. First off, I'm going to say I think this is about a half a star. I'm going to say that this film is half a star. A movie was made. People got paid. That's all that's really redeemable about this thing. And as far as it being set in the Rockies or in Denver or in both, like I said, it's completely implausible and stupid, and probably anybody that lives in Colorado or around there would be offended at the stupidity shown in this film about, just what is Denver. And I'm sorry, but it's a complete fail. For anybody that's even driven through Denver or flown over it, this movie won't work. And the weather doesn't work on top of it. It was obviously shot in a non-winter. Maybe some parts of the movie were shot during winter time somewhere, but other parts of the movie were clearly shot during the spring and summer, and you can tell. You can definitely tell. They did a a semi-good job of trying to hide that, but no, you could tell. You have Denver in the summer, the outskirts of Denver in the spring and summer, mixed with what is straight up some kind of winter condition right outside of Denver. It's completely ridiculous, and the film features a snowplow driver who goes on a revenge quest because some drug mobster villains killed his son. Yeah, it's a pretty simple plot. It's a revenge plot, and it just completely fails from the start when you're shown a completely ridiculous, very green and summer-esque downtown Denver that's all surrounded by snow and blizzard conditions and whatnot, and it's completely ridiculous. 1 star 6 days ago. Do not watch this movie. Don't do it. Trust me. Well, I'll say one thing. This thing wasn't completely boring. I actually sat through the entire thing wondering what was going to happen. I was not bored, and that's pretty amazing considering that this is completely rotten and it has a runtime of almost 2 hours, and I still sat through the whole thing and I wasn't bored because it was just so weird and bad. And you know, originally, like I said, I just went by what Rotten Tomatoes said and what the guide on DirecTV said, and I thought this was an action adventure. So I was compiling quite a list of problems with this film, all the ridiculous stuff that was going on that was unbelievable and didn't work. And then when I realized it was supposed to be a comedy and a lot of this stuff was supposed to be ridiculous and I was supposed to laugh at it, I realized, well, there's not really a point to that list. And also, this film, it failed even harder than I was going to predict because I didn't laugh one time. All of this stuff that was supposed to make me laugh at how ridiculous it was, I didn't even know this was supposed to be a comedy at all in any regard until about halfway through the running time, which shows you how big of a fail this thing is. Let's move on. I'm not going to entertain 3.5 star, 4 star reviews because I'm sorry, it's just not realistic. 3 stars, January 14, 2020. Good film, but not great. Well, it's only good that it's not boring. But it's still half a star. It's completely rotten. You know, I did assemble plot problems and whatnot. You know, I mentioned the problems with having Denver in the summer and the winter at the same time. And Denver that wasn't basically the Denver of today. It was only just downtown Denver, and you could just drive right into it from a 2-lane frozen road that would lead right up into the mountains. Literally 3 miles from downtown Denver, you're up in the mountains with snow. But downtown Denver's all green and the leaves are all on the trees. And also there's no traffic on this tiny 2-lane road that you get to downtown Denver from. There's never any traffic. Only the, you know, characters in the movie are the only traffic that's ever on this road. It's so completely stupid, but you know, as a dark comedy, I guess that could have worked. You're in a fantasy dark comedy world type setting. But I didn't know it was a comedy until halfway through this because there was nothing funny in this. It just came across as really stupid. Plot problems. Well, Liam Neeson goes on a revenge quest where it's never explained exactly how a snowplow driver is this ruthless, vengeful killer. I mean, he's blowing people's heads off, he's cutting people, he's improvising weapons that are also very stupid and killing people in gory ways with not a hint of remorse or hesitation. And it's also ridiculous because the first shot of Liam Neeson where he's discovered that his son is dead and he has to go to the morgue along with his wife, who's played by Laura Dern. They have to go to the morgue and they have to identify the son's body. And when the body's cranked out very slowly and stupidly on this I don't know, body locker table, you know, the standard rollout table that you see in a morgue, in a hospital. They spend a lot of time cranking out the body, and that's like dark comedy type stuff, but it's, again, it's not funny, it's just really stupid. And when Liam Neeson sees his body laying on the slab, you know what his reaction is the whole time? It's just, well, I've got to shift myself because I've been standing a long time. I'm bored. Yeah, Liam Neeson is just completely bored. He's not upset. He's not mourning. He doesn't have any emotion on his face beyond that. He's just bored and he's tired of being there at the police station. Now, his wife, she's all a little bit distraught, not a lot, but a little bit disturbed over seeing the death of her son. and seeing the body. But Liam Neeson's just straight out bored, and you can see him shifting like as though he's bored. And I'm just like, wow, what the hell's going on here? So I wrote that down as a plot hole, and I guess that was some kind of bizarre failed attempt at humor. But Liam Neeson continues on through the rest of the film, killing off bad guys, but never mourning his son, and just he's on this revenge quest, but it's just not funny. And it's never set up why the snowplow driver would be like this. Like maybe you're thinking, like I was thinking originally that, well, the film is going to show us that Liam Neeson's character had some kind of dark past. He used to be an assassin, or he used to have some mob boss job, or, he was one of the, a henchman of a mob boss in the past or something. But nope, he's just a snowplow driver, and he's just able to just brutally kill people without remorse, and he never even sheds a tear for the death of his son. It's like, wow, what am I watching? And at the same time, Liam Neeson's character, he has a brother that also lives outside Denver, and his brother used to be a henchman of this mob boss that killed his son, but the movie doesn't tell you this until well past halfway through its running time. It's not done as a plot twist. It's just like, oh, by the way, Liam Neeson's brother, he used to work for this mob boss, by the way, not like it's a twist or a revelation, just like the movie just kind of rolls it out like it's just a thing that they forgot to tell you about. And this brother of Neeson's character, whose name is Brock, he's the only memorable name in the movie because he's got this weird name, Brock. And he's got a wife that he straight up got out of an Asian massage parlor. And she's like from Vietnam and speaks Vietnamese. And I'm watching this. Liam Neeson goes to visit his brother Brock and ask him if he knows what's going on with the death of his son. And Brock makes a phone call in another room and comes back and suddenly knows everything that's going on after just being gone on a phone call for a few seconds. He knows everything that's going on and all the history of it. And in the meantime, his Vietnam wife is constantly like spouting all this, harsh language in Vietnamese against Liam Neeson and against her husband. And it's not really translated because you're not supposed to know exactly what she's saying. And there's all this weird stuff going on. And I guess, when I finally realized it was supposed to be some kind of dark comedy, then it all clicked in place. But then I knew it was a complete failure because I didn't even know this was supposed to be funny. I'm just wondering who thought this would make a cool action movie. It's really stupid. And yet it was so stupid that I wasn't bored enough to shut it off or consider it a boring movie. I just wanted to keep watching it to see how stupid it would get. And the bad guy villain, he's like more obsessed about his son's diet than he is about anything going on with his drug business. He's smuggling drugs into, I guess, Denver, Colorado, and he controls most of the drug trade, the cocaine business. And is he really concerned about that? Not really. He spends most of his day ranting and raving at his ex-wife about his son's dietary, whether his son is going to eat vegan peanut butter sandwiches or what it's going to be. I'm like, what? What is going on here? So much weird shit thrown together. But let's move on. I've got other things to say, but let's move on through some more audience reviews. 3 stars. Wow, good film, but not great. I'll have to disagree on that. 2.5 stars, January 9. Something got lost in translation. What should have been a darkly comic revenge thriller instead comes across as soulless and charmless. Yeah, when I realized it was supposed to be a dark comedy, I'm like, wow, what a fail. Because even after I realized what it was trying to do, I'm like, there's nothing funny in any of this. It's just stupid. I mean, again, that sounds accurate, lost in translation. I haven't seen the original Norwegian film, but I'm going to guess from what I see on Rotten Tomatoes that does present an effective dark comedy, despite being an unknown thing to most Americans. This one here is just a straight up fail in every regard. Lost in translation is exactly right. 2.5 stars. An American remake of the Norwegian film In Order of Disappearance. Cold Pursuit is a fairly entertaining dark comedy. No, it's not. When his son is murdered, Colorado snowplow driver Nels Coxman tracks down and kills his killers, accidentally triggering a war between two rival drug lords. Liam Neeson leads the cast and gives a solid performance. However, the black comedy is a little too subtle, as it takes a while to realize that it's being played for laughs. Yeah, a while? You call half the film's running time a while? That's how long it took me to go, wait a second. And I still didn't know it was supposed to be a black comedy. What I did was, about halfway through the running time, I paused it, and then I got back on Rotten Tomatoes and looked up some more details on it. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, it's a remake of this Norwegian film and it's a black comedy. And then it all made sense, but then it failed even harder for me because I still didn't find anything funny about it after I knew that. And let's just say that Liam Neeson, no, he's not effective in this. He just plays Liam Neeson like he would be in Taken, or even in Taken 2 or Taken 3. He doesn't do anything special. He's too old to be doing this kind of stuff, and it shows. And he's just brutally killing people, and he's just got a blank expression on his face, like he's bored the whole time, even while he's killing people. Nothing funny about it at all. Completely stupid. Now, this war between the two drug lords, it's very offensive. It's deliberately trying to be offensive in different non-PC ways. I mean, it just doesn't work, though, too, because it's a little bit too obvious. Like, you know how, well, the people that want to point out political correctness problems with movies, most of the problems they point out in movies are accidental problems. The movie accidentally offended somebody out there. This movie deliberately tries to offend different groups of people, and it's so obvious the way it does it that it probably didn't create any buzz or controversy, because when you're just so obviously trying to troll somebody, they realize they're being trolled, so they don't really protest much, because they're like, another troll. Because this movie, like, straight up makes fun of caricatures of Native Americans, of Asians, of white people, of upper class people, of all kinds of groups. It's throwing all these derogatory things out there, and it features a lot of time and focus and banter between different henchmen of all types, and the henchmen have all these dramas going on, and there's even a couple of henchmen that are obsessed with, how many maids and waitresses they can bang while they're doing their duties, and it's their duty to do this type of stuff. And there's another couple of henchmen that are having a secret gay affair, and they don't want the boss to discover that they're gay, and they're planning some kind of romantic vacation together. And they're doing it in all the most cliche ways to try to piss people off, and yet it just comes across as like empty trolling. That's why, even for somebody looking to protest something in a movie, they'll probably just, they'll skip this one, because it's just too obvious they're trying to piss people off. And it really doesn't work. It's not funny. You would think it would be funny, where you would see these henchmen that are otherwise ice-cold mafia killers sitting in a car together, waiting for their boss to show up to drive him somewhere. And while they're sitting there, they kind of look at each other and hold hands and have this little secret gay romance, and talk about where they're planning on going on their vacation, and we can't let the boss find out we're gay. And you'd think it would be funny, but it's not funny. It's just dumb. And you watch a group of Native American henchmen. The Native Americans in this, they're like running half of the cocaine business in Denver, around Denver, and in Colorado. And they're performing like Native American rituals on places where their drug henchmen are getting killed. And they go visit a ski resort, and they make allegations against the front desk that they're being discriminated against because they're Native Americans. That's how they get rooms there. And there's all this weird shit going on, and the movie spends a lot of time focusing on all these henchmen. And then as the henchmen get killed off, it shows you little tombstone markers on the screen, and their real name and their street or gang name, and that they've been X'd off. And you see what the movie's doing when you realize it's a black comedy, and yet it's just not funny. You're just watching this just to see how dumb it all gets. But let's move on to more audience reviews before I get too distracted. 2 stars, lame, preposterous, stupid. Yeah, it is. It's trying to be. 2.5 stars. This movie has no particular set of skills, including acting. That's a dig at Liam Neeson, who's, hopefully this is his last action movie, if this is what you call an action movie, because He has no particular set of skills anymore, despite what he says in the first Taken movie. His particular skill set now, Liam Neeson, is just showing up to collect his paycheck and hoping that it doesn't look like he can't like step over a curb or climb some steps kind of quickly. So they're right about that. 3 stars, December 10. Little old me expecting a father revenge drug lord action movie was rather disappointed. It's basically Marmite. This offbeat movie features some of the weirdest, darkest humor I have ever seen. The aesthetic of the film is beautiful, and the acting is top class. It is just a bit genreless. Apart from the mindless violence and unexpected deaths pulled for supposed laughs, I must say I enjoyed most of the movie. It's your call. Yeah, there aren't any laughs. Like, it even deliberately kills people off in ways that should be funny. Particularly, there's a scene at the very end where one of the Native American henchmen has earlier decided to paraglide down the ski resort. Never mind that the boss is having him up there to kill somebody or do something. A bunch of them just decide to have a vacation scene together. I don't know why. They're at the ski resort. Well, one of them decides to get on a paraglider and paraglide down from this mountaintop. And at the very final scene of the movie, Liam Neeson is driving away in the snowplow with another henchman. And you would think it would end there, but nope, this guy on the paraglider reappears and he paraglides right into the hopper of the snowblower machine and gets ground up and spit out onto all over the snow, parachute pieces and bloody pieces. And then it rolls to credits. And you would think that would be funny, but it's not. You're just going, oh, okay, that was really dumb. That's the way the whole movie came across. 3 stars, December 8, 2019. Neeson has had quite later career with all these action films. I'm quite happy he has announced this to be the last, and let's be honest, they have been a mixed bag. This film has an unusual style, not a bad thing by any means, but the budget doesn't match. The producers and studio obviously still wanted a basic narrative, and instead of being ambitious, it's just different in its visual structure. The black comedy doesn't work that well, and I felt this was a missed opportunity. Yeah, nothing in this works very well. I was just assembling a whole list of problems before I even realized it was supposed to be funny. 3 stars, you're above average and different than the norm. Liam Neeson action flick. Cleverly made with some beautiful cinematography and long-standing musical score. Well, let me say something about the cinematography. Beautiful or not, it's still ridiculous. Not only I mentioned how ridiculous the city of Denver is and the geography, but there are shots that happen up at the top of this mountain where Liam Neeson dumps all his victims that he kills. He wraps their bodies up. He takes them to the top of this mountain and dumps them over into this waterfall. The problem is, this mountaintop, this gigantic waterfall is coming down from the very peak of a gigantic mountain. Where does the water come from? It doesn't come from anywhere. There's just a magical waterfall at the top of this gigantic mountain peak. And don't mind the fact that the water comes from nowhere. It just does. And that's where, you get your CGI, and it's supposed to look like this beautiful white waterfall up in the mountains. But it's also completely ridiculous. The whole movie, I'm just thinking, where the fuck does this water come from? And a lot of this doesn't make sense. Liam Neeson is shown, he's a snowplower driver that lives up in this remote cabin above this ski resort town. And I don't know if the ski resort town actually exists. I hope not, for the sake of the people that actually live there, because it would be embarrassing how dumb this all is. But Liam Neeson lives in this tiny cabin that looks like something out of John Carpenter's The Thing. It should be in Antarctica. It looks like one of those old rickety wooden buildings. And on the outside, it looks like this old rickety hunting cabin, and you don't understand how it could be getting electricity and plumbing and all of that, because from the outside, it's obviously not, despite the fact that it obviously has plumbing and modern appliances in it and stuff. It makes no sense. And when you get inside the cabin, it's like pretty much a modern type of house inside with all your modern stuff. And it's got a stereo system that gets radio stations in perfect clarity. And it's way up on the top of this mountain in the middle of nowhere. And It's completely also nonsensical. At the very beginning of the film, I was just writing all the logical fails going along with this. And then I just thought I would mention it now because even as a black comedy, a lot of this stuff is just set up so unrealistic that it pulls you out of the believability. They didn't have to do that. They could have had a black comedy where everything was still realistic, but they didn't go for that. This is just some kind of unrealistic fantasy world with stuff going on that's unexplained. 3 stars, November 28, 2019. Not quite in Order of Disappearance, but some great action from Liam. There's no great action. Liam Neeson spends a lot of time driving a snowplow around, and he spends a lot of time, walking from one location to the other with a rifle in his hand. And action, though? No, no, no. I'm sorry. I don't know who's calling this action. There's really no action here. There's a scene in which Liam Neeson's character goes to a wedding dress or a wedding dress shop or a tailor. I don't know if you call it a wedding dress tailor. Anyway, this tailor at the wedding dress shop, he is also a henchman on the side for this mob boss, this drug lord, and Liam goes there to kill him because he's involved in the death of his son, or to kill him and get information to find out who's above him in the chain of command that's responsible for the death of his son. And he shows up and just tells the guy, well, I need a tuxedo because my wife and I are having a wedding. What do you call it? Not an anniversary, but where you do it over again for practice, old time's sake. Anyway, Liam's having that, and he needs a tuxedo. And so the guy immediately knows that Liam Neeson is like there to kill him and reaches for a gun that's hidden under the cash register. And Liam Neeson ends up shooting him with a sawed-off hunting rifle, which is so damn stupid. Any hunter that was familiar with these hunting rifles would know that's the last thing you wanted to do was saw the barrel off all the way to the receiver and use that as some kind of weapon. I don't get the idea behind this. It was completely stupid, and it wouldn't be something I would try to do. It's unsafe for me, the person holding it. But in any case, it's a bolt-action hunting rifle, and Liam Neeson has sawed off the entire barrel of it and is going to kill this guy with it in the wedding shop, and he does. And he shoots the guy multiple times. And this wedding shop is in a tourist town on a busy street with shops all next door on both sides of it and shops across the street and people walking on the sidewalk outside. And then he just walks out of there after shooting that hunting rifle in there a few times. I'm sorry, but again, a black comedy doesn't have to be totally unrealistic like that, but this one is in a lot of ways. 0.5 star, November 23rd, 2019. Waste of money and time. Well, luckily for me, it was only a waste of time, but I don't consider it a waste because I got to do this rotten review. But if I had seen this in the theater and not known anything about it, and I'm assuming it was put out in the theater despite the fact that it's obviously bombed and went straight to HBO really fast, oh, wow, would I be pissed off wondering, if I could get a refund? Definitely. 2.5 stars, November 21, 2019. This movie started out so strong, but became boring and frankly annoying halfway through. Well, I'll sympathize with that. It could be boring if all of a sudden, they're focusing on these henchmen pouring cereal for the bad guy's son and having their gay romances and doing different small talk and making different, class and racial jokes amongst each other. That could be boring if you didn't realize that it's trying to be a black comedy. So I'll sympathize with that one. But for me, I just found it so weird. I just needed to see where this thing was going to end up. 2 stars. Typical Liam Neeson revenge movie. Disappointing ending. Didn't get why they even had the storyline with the cops. Yeah, well, 2 stars, and you think this is typical Liam Neeson? I'm sorry, but even Taken 3, as bad as it was, that had action at least, as stupid as the action was. This movie doesn't even have action. It is straight up a fail on that regard. Disappointing ending. Yeah, disappointing because they thought you would laugh, or find it ironic or funny, but it just made you scratch your head and go, what? Didn't get why they had the storyline with the cops. Yeah, there's like a female cop that's like a young, new, fresh cop to this tourist town, and she's on the beat or the patrol with this older cop that's been doing this for 30 years. And yet This older 30-year-old cop, when he sees a dead body in the distance, he immediately doubles over and starts puking like crazy. But the female cop has no problem seeing dead bodies, despite the fact that she's just like fresh to even being a cop. And I guess it's trying to be funny, but it's just very stupid. And there's like a plot where the female cop has somebody in Denver that wants to sleep with her, so she's using him over the phone, promising him something to get information from the Denver Police Department. And it is kind of weird and boring, and you're wondering what the point of it is. I guess it was supposed to be funny like a lot of the other stuff, but it didn't come across as funny. It just came across as, why are we following these cops around, having all this small talk and doing things illogically? Yeah, 1.5 stars, terrible, stop making these, please. Yeah, can you imagine if another one of these comes out and it's called it's called Cold Pursuit 2, The Pursuit of Icy Justice, or something like that, and it has Liam Neeson as like a supporting role. Maybe he's now retired as a snowplow driver, and it's his stepson that's now taken over, or better yet, his estranged daughter that you didn't know he had that just moved up from Denver proper, and she's going to go on the case against some drug lords. Wouldn't that be fantastic? I'll bet people would be dumb enough to go pay and see that, and you better hope that what I just said doesn't get back to one of these Hollywood studios, because they might just run with that. 2 stars. I think Aiksen's original script was lost in translation, resulting in this dark comedy reaching its full potential. Yeah, again, saying lost in translation is just being too kind to this. Because if it were lost in translation, I would at least know what it's trying to do. But like I said, I had to pause this movie halfway through and go back and look to see what this was classified as before I finally found somebody calling this a dark comedy, because this is listed as an action adventure on Rotten Tomatoes front page. And the same thing, it's listed as that on HBO too. 3 stars, okay movie, a little slow, really. 0.5 star, Liam Neeson is a better actor than this. Taken and Taken 2 were way better than this movie. This movie made no sense at all. Yeah, because you, like a lot of people, you probably thought this was supposed to be taken seriously, and it's supposed to be some kind of dark comedy. 1 star, heavy-handed script, every character is over the top, unwatchable. Yeah, the actual henchmen in all of this feature a lot more prominently than everybody else. In fact, did you know that the henchmen get a lot more screen time in this than Liam Neeson's character does? It's true. I started to notice that Liam Neeson disappeared for a long stretches of time, and you were just focused on the henchmen and their dirty, perverted stuff going on that wasn't funny. 1 star, worst movie we've seen in 4 to 5 years. Sloppy, simplistic, and plastic characters. The plot of a 30-minute episode of South Park. Please stay away from this movie. Save yourselves. Yep. In fact, I'm going to recommend go see this one, In Order of Disappearance. Not only certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but 73% audience score, so it can't be that bad. I'm going to say it's probably a good film. I'm going to say that it is. But the one that we're here to talk about, Cold Pursuit, 2019, 50% audience score. Wow, it should probably have like a 20% audience score. I don't know, maybe somebody out there actually laughed. It wouldn't take many people because there's only 2,400 something audience reviews. So I guess like maybe 800 people laughed or something, so that's why it's not completely down in the single digits. And I don't know what the critics were thinking. 70% on the tomato meter? Maybe they're just thinking, they were thinking they were watching the other one. Maybe they got confused and they thought their review was for the Norwegian one, because 70%? Really? I'm surprised the critics rating isn't down to 7% on this. I don't know how they missed savaging this. It's got 174 critics that thought 70% of them thought this was fresh. Wow, that's incredible to me. And I think I've just said everything I can on this. I didn't get one laugh out of it. Dark comedy or not, if you think that's what it is, go into this drunk. You're still not going to be laughing. It's really that stupid. So I'm going to see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.